Do you really think you get to walk away scot-free? I shot at Jason, feeling the sting of betrayal deep in my chest. Jason smirked, his eyes cold. You're delusional, Rebecca. You and that bastard are out. This house is mine. A low gasp escaped my lips as I stared at him, my home of 7 years suddenly feeling hostile and foreign. It had been just 3 weeks since I'd returned from my sister Dana's place after giving birth to Ethan. I'd stayed there to recover and receive much-needed support, but I hadn't expected to come back to this nightmare. Your clothes are gone, Jason said nonchalantly, folding his arms across his chest. Mom thought it best you not keep any false hope. False hope? I echoed, incredulous. Jason's mother, Diane, stepped forward, her face stern. I know about your affair, Rebecca. That child isn't Jason's. The weight of her words hit me like a physical blow. What are you talking about? Diane, Ethan is Jason's son. I have never... Spare me the lies. Diane's voice cracked with anger. I saw the pictures, the emails. I may have believed you once, but not anymore. Flashes of my life with Jason crossed my mind. The initial whirlwind romance, the engagement so full of promises, and our wedding day. Once his touch was gentle and his words kind. What had happened? Where did it all go wrong? Think it through, Jason interrupted my thoughts, voice dripping with sarcasm. Doesn't take a genius to figure out why you suddenly got pregnant after all those years. I felt my knees threatening to buckle. We struggled for years, Jason, the treatments, the hopes and disappointments, and now you're saying... He cut me off, looking disinterested. Yeah, and guess what? I gave up hope a long time ago. Inside, a fire began to burn. So that's it? You just stopped caring, and now you want to throw me and your own son out based on lies? You're in denial, Rebecca, Jason said dismissively. It's over. Cold disbelief gave way to clarity. This wasn't random. It had been brewing. Jason's sudden withdrawal and indifference when I announced I was pregnant. Him barely being home, always on business trips. The harsh, stinging accusations I had brushed aside because I loved him and believed in us. Diane's eyes bore into mine, searching for truth or perhaps a crack in my resolve. I met her gaze evenly. You believe those fabricated stories? Check your sources, Diane. I never cheated. I loved your son, and you know it. She hesitated. I could see uncertainty flicker in her eyes, but Jason's words had woven their poison well. Turning my focus back to him, I said, You've been distant, disrespectful. Is this really about me, or is it you who's hiding something? Jason's face darkened, but he remained silent. I knew then that I needed to call Dana. She'd been my rock, my reality check. Her voice on the other end came calmly, Rebecca, come back here. You and Ethan need safety and clarity. Nodding, I gathered what dignity I had left. Fine, I'll leave. But this isn't over, Jason. He laughed mockingly. Oh, it very much is. As I walked out with Ethan in my arms, a sense of steely determination took over. Jason might think he won this round, but I had just begun my fight. No way would I let lies and betrayal steal what was rightfully mine. With my sister's support and love, I knew I'd find the strength to challenge Jason's deception and protect my son. I settled into Dana's guest room, feeling the dull ache of betrayal. Ethan slept soundly in his crib while I stared at the ceiling, replaying Jason's cruel words. The next morning, Dana found me in the kitchen, a cup of coffee cradled in my hands. How did you sleep? She asked softly, placing a hand on my shoulder. Not well, I admitted, my voice breaking slightly. I can't believe this is happening. We'll get through this, Dana assured me. You're not alone. Her words were a balm to my raw nerves. She began cooking breakfast while I took a deep breath, ready to recount the agonizing events that led me here. You know, things weren't always this bad, I started, staring at the steam rising from my coffee. Jason's parents were like family to me, especially during the fertility treatments. Diane and Robert were so supportive. I remember, Dana said, flipping pancakes. They were always around, helping out. I nodded, recalling their kind gestures that once felt so genuine. But Jason's prolonged business trips and constant absence had frayed the bonds that held us together. His coldness grew more pronounced with each passing month, especially after I got pregnant. He wasn't there for any of my doctor appointments, I continued, my voice thick with emotion. I was so sick all the time, and handling everything myself was nearly impossible. Dana turned to face me. Why didn't you ask for help? I didn't want to bother you, I said, shaking my head. And I kept telling myself Jason would come around, but instead, he started throwing around accusations of adultery even before Ethan was born. Dana's eyes narrowed. That jerk. What's his game? I don't know, I admitted, but it all makes sense now. This wasn't random. He's been planning something. Just then, Emily, Dana's 8-year-old daughter, bounced into the kitchen. Mom, can Aunt Becky and Ethan come to my school's family day? Dana smiled warmly at her daughter. Of course, darling, but remember, Aunt Becky has a lot going on right now. It's okay, I said, managing a smile. I think it would be good for us. I needed to feel normal, if only for a little while. After breakfast, Dana's husband, Tim, pulled me aside. Rebecca, if you need anything, we're here for you. Don't hesitate to ask. I nodded, grateful for his straightforward support. Thank you, Tim. It means a lot. Meanwhile, Jason's neglect echoed in my mind. I thought of how he dismissed my sickness, how he barely called, leaving everything to me. And those degrading phrases, screaming for a divorce, accusing me of being with someone else. Ethan stirred and whimpered in his crib. I picked him up, feeling his warmth. You're my reason to fight, I whispered into his soft hair, kissing the top of his head. Later, Dana helped me organize my things. As we packed, she remarked, Remember, you have the power to turn this around. Don't let Jason's lies define your future. Her strength bolstered my resolve. I'm moving back in here for good. I need to focus on Ethan and figure out our next steps. Dana squeezed my hand. We've got your back, Rebecca. Jason won't know what hit him. Living with Dana brought a semblance of peace. Yet the weight of Jason's accusations and the blatant betrayal lurked constantly. But with my sister by my side, the fog of doubt began to clear. I'd build a new life for Ethan and myself, one without Jason's poisonous presence. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. With every passing day, my determination grew, and I knew I'd find the strength to confront Jason and reclaim my life. The day Ethan was born was a whirlwind of emotions. Dana's home was filled with the chaos of labor and the serenity of new life. Despite the joy, there was an unmistakable void where Jason should have been. Congratulations, Rebecca, Dana beamed as she handed me my newborn son. He's perfect. Tears streamed down my face as I held Ethan close. I just wish Jason was here, I confessed, the pang of his absence cutting deep. Dana pursed her lips, but refrained from voicing her strong feelings. Instead, she busied herself with ensuring we had everything needed. Days turned into weeks, and still, Jason's presence was merely a ghost in emails and brief clinical phone calls. One dreary afternoon, my phone buzzed with an unexpected call from Diane. Swallowing my apprehension, I answered. Hello? Rebecca, Diane's voice was steeped in sternness. Jason has decided to file for divorce, citing infidelity. We have evidence. My heart sank. What kind of evidence? I asked, clutching the phone tighter. Photos, emails, reports from a private investigator, she replied sharply. Rebecca, it's clear to us. I didn't hear the rest. Fury and injustice overwhelmed me. I need to see this evidence for myself, I snapped before hanging up. Dana found me gripping the counter, shaking with rage. What happened? Jason's filing for divorce, accusing me of cheating, I spat. They have supposed evidence. Dana's face darkened. This is Jason's doing. We need to confront him. You can't allow him to tear your life apart with lies. I nodded, finding strength in her determination. I'm going back to our home. I need to face him and see this evidence. The next morning, I drove to what used to be our home. My nerves were fraying, but rage and resolve pushed me forward. Jason was going to face his consequences. I stepped inside the house, finding Jason and his parents waiting, looking smug and confident. My belongings were absent, replaced by a chilling emptiness. Rebecca, let's make this quick, Jason said, a smirk playing on his lips. The evidence is indisputable. You expect me to believe your lies? I shot back. Show me this so-called evidence. Jason pulled out a folder, tossing it onto the coffee table. Diane and Robert looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. I sifted through photos of me talking to friends, innocent interactions twisted into falsehoods. This is all fabricated, I said, voice shaking with suppressed rage. Jason shrugged. Believe what you want, the court will side with me. I looked at Diane and Robert. You've known me for years. You think I'd betray your son like this? Robert frowned, finally speaking up. It seems awfully coincidental. Jason, are we sure about this? Jason's eyes flashed with anger. Dad, we have the proof. Rebecca's deceit is clear. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I didn't cheat, and I won't let you ruin my life based on lies. If we're going to court, I'm ready to fight. Jason's smirk faltered, but he quickly regained composure. You're delusional if you think you can win. The room felt charged with tension as I faced them, unyielding. I had my son to protect and a truth to defend. Jason's betrayals wouldn't break me. Dragging my eyes to Diane and Robert, I said, think about the kind of person standing next to you. This isn't about me. It's about what Jason's hiding from you all. The expressions on their faces wavered, uncertainty creeping in. I saw a flicker of doubt in Diane's eyes, and it fueled my determination. Believe me or not, I challenged, the truth will come out. And Jason, you'll regret this. Without waiting for a response, I turned on my heel, walking out the front door and slamming it behind me. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for war. Determination propelled me forward. I knew I couldn't let Jason get away with this. The next few days were a blur of legal consultations and gathering evidence. My lawyer, Mr. Turner, reassured me, we're going to fight this, Rebecca. Jason's accusations won't hold up in court if they are false. Armed with my newfound strength, I returned to my former home. I wasn't going to let Jason's deceit break me. Stepping inside, I found Jason, Diane, and Robert waiting for me. Here she is, Jason sneered. Come to admit your lies. Ignoring his taunt, I addressed Diane and Robert. I have something to say. It's time for the truth to come out. Jason's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? Taking a deep breath, I began. Jason's the one who's been unfaithful, not me. He's been cheating on me during his business trips. Preposterous! Jason shouted, but I noticed a flicker of fear in his eyes. Diane, Robert, I continued. I hired an investigator of my own. Here's the evidence. I pulled out photos, emails, and proof of Jason's affair with a colleague. Diane's face turned pale as she flipped through the documents. Jason, is this true? Jason's smirk faltered slightly, but he tried to maintain his composure. She's lying. This is all fabricated. But Diane's gaze hardened. We've known Rebecca for years. Her honesty has never been in question until you planted those seeds of doubt. Mom, you can't seriously believe her. Jason's voice wavered, his confidence cracking. Robert, who had been silent, now spoke up, his voice steady. Jason, I need you to be honest. Did you or did you not have an affair? Caught off guard, Jason hesitated. Dad, it's complicated. I seized the moment. Your accusations against me were baseless, Jason. It was all a ploy to cover up your own infidelity. So what if I was unfaithful? Jason snapped, finally losing his composure. Rebecca was never there for me. I needed someone. The room fell into a heavy silence. Diane looked at her son with a mixture of disappointment and anger. You destroyed our trust, Jason. You let us believe in lies just to cover up your own failings. Robert's expression mirrored Diane's. You've gone too far, son. We're supporting Rebecca in this, period. Jason's face turned red with rage, but he knew he was cornered. You'll regret this, he threatened, but his words lacked the usual menace. We'll take our chances, Diane responded coldly. Rebecca, what do you need from us? Relief washed over me. I need support for Ethan and myself. I want custody, and I'll need financial help until the divorce is settled. You have it, Robert affirmed. We were fooled, but not anymore. Jason seethed, his mask of control slipping entirely. You think you can just walk away with everything? I'll fight you in court. I met his gaze unflinching. Do what you have to, Jason. But know this, the truth is on my side, and I'm not backing down. Turning to Diane and Robert, I added, Thank you. I never wanted it to come to this, but I'll make sure Ethan grows up in a loving, honest environment. As I walked out, the weight on my shoulders felt lighter. This battle wasn't over, but I wasn't alone anymore. With Diane and Robert's support, I was ready to face whatever came next. Jason had underestimated the strength of truth and family, and that would be his undoing. The living room was thick with tension. Silence hung heavy as Jason's facade crumbled. Diane and Robert's presence gave me courage. I was ready to reveal Jason's true colors. Jason, Diane's voice trembled with anger. You've lied to us all. And for what? To cover your own sins? Jason scoffed, but the cockiness in his demeanor had faded. You don't understand. I had my reasons. Your reasons, I interjected, unable to hold back. Like what, Jason? Justify betraying your family and me? His eyes flashed with irritation. You were obsessed with having a baby. You barely noticed I was drowning. I needed someone, and Amanda understood me. Diane gasped. Amanda? The colleague you traveled with? Jason looked away, his silence confirming her fears. Anger surged through me. So all this time, it was Amanda, and now she's pregnant, isn't she? Jason's jaw clenched. Yes, she is. We're starting a new life, Rebecca. Move on. Diane stepped between us, tears in her eyes. Move on, after the devastation you've caused? You're despicable, Jason. Robert's voice turned steely. This stops now. We're cutting you off financially, and you will support Rebecca and Ethan. You'll hear from my lawyer about the details. Jason's composure snapped. What? You can't just abandon me. I'm your son. You abandoned us first, Robert replied bitterly, and you betrayed the woman who stood by you. Jason's face twisted with rage. This isn't over. I'll fight for everything. You think you can take my life away so easily? I'm not taking your life, Jason, I said, my voice steady. I'm reclaiming mine. Ethan deserves a father who isn't a liar. This is for him. Diane, her tears drying into a hardened resolve, nodded. We'll testify against you if needed. Rebecca deserves justice. Jason looked at his parents, the reality of his situation sinking in. You're making a mistake. You'll regret this. No, Jason, Diane answered firmly. Our mistake was believing your lies and turning against Rebecca. That ends now. I stepped closer to Jason, feeling a fire of resilience within me. You underestimated me. I've endured your neglect and betrayal for far too long. It's time to take control. Anger flickered in his eyes. Do your worst, he spat, storming out of the house. As the door slammed shut, I turned to Diane and Robert. Thank you for standing with me. This isn't easy, but I'm grateful for your support. Diane embraced me tightly. Rebecca, we were deceived too. We're sorry for not seeing the truth sooner. Robert placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You're brave, and we'll help you through this. You have our full support. Leaving their home, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This battle wasn't just for me, it was for Ethan. Jason's threats no longer held power over me. With the truth on my side, I was ready to face the legal war ahead. Back at Dana's, I recounted everything to her. She hugged me tightly. You did it, Rebecca. You took the first step. Yes, I said, a new determination in my voice. Now, we fight. Jason might have started this war, but I was ready to finish it. For Ethan, for myself, and for the truth. The days ahead would be challenging, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't alone anymore. I had my family, and together, we'd face whatever came our way. My resolve steeled as I walked into the courtroom. Jason sat at the defense table, flanked by his lawyer. Flashing a smirk, he leaned back, projecting confidence. But I saw through his facade. Mr. Turner, my lawyer, joined me. Rebecca, remember to stay composed. We have strong evidence on our side. I nodded, clutching Ethan's photo for strength. The judge called us to order, and the trial began. Jason's lawyer kicked off. Your Honor, the defendant, Mr. Keller, is here to contest the wrongful accusations made by Mrs. Keller. We have evidence of her infidelity and negligence as a mother. My anger simmered. Lies. All lies. Mr. Turner countered smoothly, presenting our side. Your Honor, we have ample evidence proving Mr. Keller's infidelity and deceit. We'll show that Mrs. Keller is a devoted mother, wrongfully accused by a manipulative husband. Jason's eyes narrowed. The room buzzed with tension as Mr. Turner presented our evidence. Photos of Jason and Amanda, hotel receipts, emails, and witness testimonies. Each piece shredded Jason's facade further. Mr. Keller, Mr. Turner addressed Jason directly, you accused your wife of infidelity to cover your own. Do you deny these photos and emails? Jason shifted uncomfortably. Those are private matters, he dodged. They don't prove she wasn't unfaithful, too. I couldn't stay silent. Jason, you destroyed everything with your lies. Be honest for once. He glared at me, but said nothing. The judge's gaze bore into him. Mr. Keller, the evidence is substantial. How do you respond? Jason's lawyer tried damage control. Your Honor, regardless of Mr. Keller's actions, we must focus on Mrs. Keller's competence as a mother. Before I could react, Mr. Turner played our trump card. Your Honor, we'd like to call Diane Keller to the stand. Diane took the stand, eyes firm but pained. She began, we believed Rebecca was unfaithful because of Jason's manipulation. We were wrong. She's been nothing but a dedicated mother and wife. Jason's lawyer objected, questioning Diane's objectivity, but she remained resolute. My husband and I hired private investigators. We found nothing against Rebecca. Instead, we discovered Jason's affair. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs. Jason's facade crumbled further. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Keller, are you supporting your son's claims? Diane's voice was steady. No, Your Honor. Rebecca is a victim here. We were deceived by Jason. Jason's expression turned desperate. Mom, you can't. Robert stood up from the audience. Enough, Jason. You've done enough damage. It's time to face the consequences. Tears welled up, but I held them back. I had to stay strong for Ethan. The judge looked at Jason one last time. Mr. Keller, you've been found to have misled this court and your family. Custody of Ethan will be granted to Mrs. Keller. You will provide child support and alimony as per the legal stipulations. Jason's defiance deflated. He muttered, This isn't over. It is, I said, standing tall, for Ethan's sake. The judge's final decisions marked the end of the legal battle, but the beginning of a new chapter. Jason had to face the consequences of his betrayal, while I had to rebuild our lives. Leaving the courthouse, Diane and Robert approached me. Rebecca, Diane began, tears in her eyes, we're truly sorry for everything. I smiled, a mix of relief and gratitude. What matters now is building a stable future for Ethan. Dana and Tim were waiting outside, relief etched on their faces. You did it! Dana exclaimed, hugging me tightly. I hugged her back, feeling the warmth of family. We did it. As we walked away, I glanced back at Jason, defeated and alone. It was poetic justice. He underestimated the strength of truth and family, and it was his downfall. Our fight was far from over, but for the first time in a long time I felt hope. We were moving forward, and I was ready for whatever came next, knowing I had the love and support to face any challenge. Weeks passed, and the legal proceedings were finally over. I had full custody of Ethan, along with child support and alimony secured. It felt like a victory, but the real triumph lay in our future. We needed to move on. One morning, I met with a realtor to sell the house. Walking through the empty rooms, I felt a mix of sadness and relief. This place held memories, both good and bad, but it was time to let go. Dana joined me later, helping pack the last of my things. Ready for a fresh start? She asked, her smile warm and reassuring. More than ready, I replied, feeling lighter. I've already found a new place near your place. It's small but cozy. That's perfect, Dana said, carrying a box to the car. We'll be neighbors again. Emily is ecstatic. As we loaded the last of the boxes, Jason appeared at the driveway. My heart raced, but I stood firm, protecting Ethan, who was cradled in my arms. Rebecca, we need to talk, Jason started, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. There's nothing to talk about, I replied coolly. Everything's been settled. He shoved his hands into his pockets, looking defeated. Please, Rebecca, just hear me out. I need another chance. I stared at him, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. Another chance? After everything you put us through? You think you deserve that? Jason sighed, glancing away. I messed up. I was wrong, and I lost everything. Amanda left when she realized I couldn't support her. I have nothing now. That's your own doing, Jason, I said sharply. Ethan and I have moved on. We don't need you. Dana stepped in, her eyes fierce. Jason, leave. You've done enough damage. Jason's shoulders slumped. All fight drained from him. Fine, but remember, I'm still Ethan's father. And you will fulfill your responsibilities, as ordered by the court, I affirmed. Now leave. He left without another word, a broken man. Watching him go, I felt a pang of pity, but it was overshadowed by my resolve to protect Ethan and our new life. Dana wrapped an arm around my shoulders. You did the right thing. He needed to hear that. Nodding, I looked at my son. Ethan deserves a stable, loving home, and that's exactly what we'll give him. We moved into our new home that weekend. It was modest, but full of potential. With Dana and Tim's help, we settled in quickly. Ethan's laughter filled the house, a sound I cherished more than anything. One evening, after putting Ethan to bed, I sat on the porch with Dana. Can you believe how far we've come? I mused, watching the stars. You've been incredibly strong, Dana replied. And now it's all paying off. Thank you for standing by me, I said, squeezing her hand. I couldn't have done it without you. We're family, Dana smiled. That's what we do. As the days turned into weeks, our new life began to take shape. The house slowly felt like home, filled with love and laughter. I found peace in the routine, and Ethan thrived in the nurturing environment we created. One day I received a call from Diane. Rebecca, I just wanted to check on you and Ethan. How are you? We're doing well. Diane, I replied, a smile touching my lips. We've settled in nicely. I'm glad to hear that, Diane said, her voice tinged with relief. I miss Ethan terribly. Could we visit sometime? Of course, I agreed. You both are welcome anytime. Life was far from perfect, but it was ours to rebuild. Each day I grew stronger, fueled by the love of my family and the determination to forge a better future. Ethan would grow up knowing that amidst the trials we found strength, and in unity we found hope. Months turned into a year, and life settled into a rhythm. Each day brought new joys and challenges, but the peace we found was our own. Ethan thrived, his laughter lighting up our home. One Saturday, Dana invited me and Ethan over for a family gathering. The backyard buzzed with energy as kids played and adults chatted. "Rebecca," Dana called, waving me over. "Come help me with the barbecue." I joined her by the grill, flipping burgers and catching up. "This is exactly what we needed," I said, watching Ethan play with Emily and their friends. Dana smiled. "We're so lucky to have each other. Family is everything." In the midst of our conversation, my phone buzzed. It was Diane. "Hi, Diane. Everything okay?" "Rebecca," she began, her voice shaky. "I have some news about Jason." My heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" "He's been struggling. Amanda left him for good, and he's now working menial jobs to make ends meet. He's hit rock bottom." For a moment, I felt a flicker of pity, but recalling the betrayals, I steeled myself. "I see. Thanks for letting me know." "Despite everything, he's still Ethan's father," Diane added gently. "I hope he can eventually find a way to be a better man." "I hope so too," I replied, glancing at Ethan, who deserved better. "But my priority is Ethan's well-being." Later that day, after the gathering, Dana and I sat on the porch reflecting. "Can you believe how far we've come?" she marveled. "You're stronger than ever." "I had to be," I said, placing a hand on Ethan's head as he dozed off in my lap, for him and for myself. The next few months saw more stability and growth. My bond with Ethan deepened, and we flourished in our supportive community. Then, one rainy afternoon, Jason appeared at my door. "Rebecca, we need to talk," he said, rain dripping from his hair. I hesitated, but stepped aside, letting him in. "What do you want, Jason?" He looked broken, a shadow of his former self. "I've lost everything. Amanda, my parents, my job. I'm trying to make amends." "Amends?" I echoed, incredulous. "Do you realize the damage you've caused?" He nodded, eyes downcast. "I've changed, Rebecca. I'm in therapy, working through my issues. I want to be a part of Ethan's life." "I'm not sure I can trust you," I admitted. "Ethan's stability comes first." "I understand," he sighed. "I'm willing to start small. Supervised visits, anything to show I'm committed to being a better father." A part of me remained skeptical, but another part recognized his sincerity. "Fine," I said, standing firm. "We'll try supervised visits, but one mistake, Jason, and it ends." "Thank you," he responded, relief evident in his eyes. "I won't mess this up." As he left, I felt a mix of emotions. This wasn't forgiveness, but a cautious step forward. For Ethan's sake, I was willing to give Jason a chance to prove himself. A few weeks later, at a family gathering, I watched as Jason interacted with Ethan under my and Dana's watchful eyes. Slowly, trust began to rebuild, not for Jason as my partner, but for him as Ethan's father. Diane called that evening, relief in her voice. "Rebecca, thank you for giving Jason this opportunity. It means the world to him and to us." "Ethan deserves the effort," I replied, "but it's up to Jason to prove he's worthy." As I hung up, I felt a sense of closure. Jason's fall from grace was his own doing, but our future didn't rely on his redemption. It relied on the love and strength we built as a family. That night, as I tucked Ethan into bed, I whispered, "We've come so far, little one, and there's so much more to look forward to." The past year had reshaped our lives, but it had also fortified our spirits. We faced trials, overcame them, and emerged stronger. Together, we were ready to embrace whatever came next, with love, resilience, and unwavering hope.